Hi, good morning. I'm Dr. Ben Newman. I study coronaviruses for a living. Yeah, welcome to the featureless void. Yeah. So, our first question, I wanted to jump to one which I think came in last, but yeah, whatever. Yeah, you got to start at one end or the other, right? Um, so the question is from Ella Louise, and hello, Ella Louise. Yeah, good to hear from you. Let's see. So we've been told that the hospital would need to be prepared to start rolling out a vaccine as early as the 1st of December. And this is a hospital somewhere in the UK. I'm aware that vaccines usually take longer to be produced. Yes, they do. So the first question is kind of why so quick here? This is all part of the program. We've known that COVID-19 is a problem for a while, and ordinarily, when companies are fronting all the money themselves, they will generally try to see if a thing works before making vast stockpiles of it. That is not what happened this time. They made vast stockpiles of it and then have been using those and stockpiling even more while they're doing that. So that was my giant mound of vaccines gesture. Yeah, a lot of this has been made possible by government money going into the companies and like charitable trust money, like Wellcome Trust, things like that, going in to actually fund some of the vaccine work. So that has made it, yeah, potentially easier to speed up this part. The companies are taking risks, but not with their own money, and so I think that's it. So that's just like a economic answer. I think there's not a safety answer. These are all still going through the same parts. Now, the other thing that sped it up a little bit is that there's a modern vogue, which has been okay for a while, of doing combined phase 1 and 2 or combined phase 2 and 3, or there's even one group doing a combined phase 1, 2, and 3, where you would just, basically take something that has already been tried out and shown to be non-toxic. It's probably not going to hurt people, which is the case in all these vaccines. So all of these are copying earlier things that have been done over and over again and just haven't made particularly good vaccines, but they've been safe. Yeah. So they're taking fairly safe things and they're just saying, well, what if we put in this protein instead of the other protein or this gene instead of the other gene? And swapping out one gene like that, not a big deal. It's just the gene you're showing to the immune system. So, and these genes don't do anything on their own in particular. So it's probably all right. Let's see, and then so that's maybe a little more of a sciencey answer for that one. Is that yeah, everybody is just copying everybody else's homework, and so it's really nothing particularly new. Even though this is like the first time we're gonna have mRNA vaccines in the forefront, really approved and used by large numbers of people, and that's kind of neat and new. But it's something people have been trying for a long time, believe me. Yeah. Um, let's see. And then there's one last question. Actually, no, there's two more questions. Yeah, that's fine. We'll get them all. Yeah. Um, let's see. So there's worry that having rushed through, they may miss long-term side effects. It's possible, but normally with a drug that you're putting into a body, for example, there are a lot of ways this can interact with different proteins. There are all these thousands of proteins, which are going to be different sets on different kinds of cells. And so a small molecule is kind of unpredictable. A messenger RNA or a DNA, this is just a regular message that the cell makes. And in a sense, the cells that are making this message, in some of these vaccines anyway, may end up being kind of little sacrificial cells. So they'll put it in your arm where you can lose and regrow a couple of cells, no big deal. And there's just a lot less room for something weird or unexpected to happen with a DNA vaccine or a messenger RNA vaccine, which is basically what we are talking about with all the leading candidates. So, yeah, I think they can get away with it in this case. And so far, the safety record's been really good for all of these vaccines because everybody around the world's trying the same stuff and it seems to all be working just about the same, as you can tell from the results. Yeah. They range from 90% to 100% in the Chinese test, which has fewer people, so that's not quite as strong 100%, but it's still really good. So, yeah. Another question in the same one. So they're saying at the hospital to get the flu vaccine first before the COVID vaccine. One, flu season is normally in December. It normally takes you, or like November, December, takes you about a month to make a decent immune response that'll protect you. And so, yeah, take that, get it out of the way. If you don't take the flu vaccine until December, then you're not going to be protected until January, and you may have already caught the flu by then. Nobody likes the flu. Yeah, I don't like the flu. As for why the flu vaccine before the coronavirus vaccine, other than timing, I don't think there's a big reason why you would have to take one before the other. If you took them both at the same time, you might not get as much of an effect. What a vaccine does is it's going to basically sort through all of your white blood cells. You got all these T cells and B cells, like little baby ones that haven't ever recognized anything in their lives. And this is their first big challenge when you vaccinate. And so you end up going through and you actually kill off all the ones that don't recognize what you want, and you make more of the ones that recognize the vaccine. And so in this process, you end up temporarily with a little dip in the number of white blood cells you have, and then it comes back up. So you wouldn't want to vaccinate and then, 7 days later, vaccinate again necessarily, unless you're vaccinating against the same thing. With a booster, that could work. But even with a booster, they usually leave it about 2-3 weeks for the, white blood cells to pick back up. And that's all it takes. So, yeah, on those two grounds, I would say, get your flu shot. Yeah, flu shot's a good thing. Okay, and then the very, very last question in here. This is quite a thing. Let's see. I've heard that this vaccine's been created in a different way, messenger RNA from other vaccines. Yeah, two of them, the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, are messenger RNA. But, and so, all right, you got this mix of vaccines. On the one hand, you've got pure protein vaccines. There are a couple of those out there. On the other hand, you've got the thing that makes protein, which is messenger RNA. So you just put the messenger RNA and the cell makes the protein for you. It's like just writing a note and saying, do this, and then somebody does it for you. It's really nice, yeah. And you don't have to worry about, is the protein intact? Did it fall apart? Did it misfold? Is something going to go wrong when I put a bunch of protein in? Because you're just putting in a message, and the cells make a protein at the normal rate, and then, yeah, the body sees it or doesn't. Yeah, probably does, though. And then the other vaccines are putting in DNA, which, wait for it, will be used to make RNA, which will then be used to make protein. So it's just one step removed from the mRNA vaccine. They're all really trying to do the same thing, which is get the spike protein in front of your immune system in as much abundance as possible. The RNAs are kind of nice in that they should provide a very short-term sort of effect. Like if you put DNA into a cell, usually the DNA, may eventually be lost as the cell is dividing, but some of that DNA may hang around for a long time, in theory, yeah. There are occasions in the laboratory where you get the DNA actually incorporating into a chromosome. This isn't one of the types that should incorporate itself, as far as I'm aware, but at a low frequency, something like this can happen. The RNA is much less permanent. It is a thing that once it goes into a cell, it's going to be there. It's going to work for maybe 15 minutes, just really short term. Make a bunch of little copies of spike, probably not enough to make the cell sick or anything. And then after that, the RNA is going to break down. And you just put in so many of these little messenger RNAs, and it's really a lot compared to how much we would normally use in a lab. It's just instructions, little instruction sets, and you drop these off in all the cells. And yes, it's kind of neat. It's the idea is that you should be able to get a nice, strong response, but do less long-term, damage or change or whatever to a cell or to the entire body. So, yeah, in general, I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah. And that's it. That's basically everything about vaccines. I don't know. If you got more questions, ask more questions. For now, thanks very much. This has been Ask Dr. Ben. Yeah, that was kind of a long one, but, featureless void. What else are we going to do in here? All right.